Today's episode is brought to you by Sports Business Classroom. Landing a job in the NBA is no easy feat. One surefire way to put yourself in front of a competitive talent pool is if you master the collective bargaining agreement. And now you can, with a course developed by the godfather of the CBA himself, Larry Kuhn. Larry Kuhn has been teaching the CBA to teams, agents, media, and students for over 20 years, and now you can master the CBA through his online video on-demand course, which is now available to the public. If you're looking to break into basketball, or even just set yourself apart, this is the competitive advantage you are looking for. To learn more about the video on-demand course that is being taken by teams and agents all over the world, please visit sportsbusinessclassroom.com today. Ben, man, what's going on?
How we doing, John?
Doing great. Really excited to do this. This episode's been a while in the making because I've always heard great things about you from people like Nima that work with you and all this great stuff. And obviously you're with the G League, and who doesn't love the G League, right? If you listen to this podcast, you love the G League because we're all about it. Love the fact that we're here talking, and I can't wait to hear your story. One thing I should know this, you used to be at MSG as a student associate. So very similar backgrounds. I love it. I love the energy we had before the call, and this is gonna be a really fun show.
Yeah, I'm really excited. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, look, I mean, I'm sure everyone, when they see you, they talk about the G League, they talk about all the cool stuff you're doing now. But there was a beginning to this before all the cool titles. When you were just Ben, a guy that likes basketball. So how did that all start for you to where you really fell in love with the game, and now it's your whole career?
Yeah, so I'll take it back to my high school days. I was captain of my high school team, loved basketball from a young age and played growing up. But when it came to the collegiate level, I realized I had the heart, but not the talent to continue playing there. So I was in the business school, Yeshiva University, double majoring in finance and data analytics. And I was kind of more on a finance track. There was some very lucrative jobs that kind of come right out of college in the finance world. But I had a nagging itch to kind of see if I could make a sports career work. And I've always loved basketball. And I was involved on campus. I was the color commentator from the D3 basketball team. And I said, you know what, this is the right time. I'm young. If I have a chance, I'm in New York City, let's go for it. And I got really lucky. I started out working at a sports agency, which wasn't necessarily for me, but I was helping grow out that basketball program, and that was a great first step into the industry. I then started working for a startup company called Respect Basketball Technologies, and they did shooting analytics. So they measured more than just whether the ball went in or not, but exactly where it hit on the rim and the arc and the angle of the shots, and really helping players develop. And it was a small startup company based out of Israel. I was the second employee in America. And that opportunity, as a 21, 22-year-old kid, they sent me out to a summer league, an all-star game. I was meeting with players, coaches, GMs, as someone who did, and even investors trying to pitch the company to them. I started to really make inroads within the industry. It was a growing company. When I started with them, they had just 2 NBA teams. When I left them in 2018, they were up to 13 NBA teams. So it was really cool to get on board that rising ship. And then I also, I spent some time at Brooklyn Sports and Entertainment and MSG on the financial analytics side of things, which was kind of more of what I was doing in college, but also helped me realize that the respect work and the being involved in the game of basketball was more than I want to do than just analyze financial data. So I, continued to work more and more for Respect, work on those connections and growing my portfolio of work that I was doing. And a job opened up at the G League, and I thought it was a great place to start my career. And that was about a little bit more than 3 years ago. October 2018, I started at the G League, and I've been here ever since.
I love that. I love the passion you have telling that story and talking about your early beginnings. And I'm going to jump on everything with MSG and Respect and all that stuff. But before we do that, you kind of glossed over the fact that you went to the Yeshiva University. Honestly, so one of my best friends plays at Farmingdale. I went to watch him play once there. I mean, when's the last time you went to a Yeshiva game? Because the atmosphere in there is incredible.
Oh, baby. It is the Max Stern Athletic Center is a rocking house, and it's a smaller gym. So you really feel the energy there. Oh, it's amazing. I actually went they had a 50-game win streak this year, the longest win streak in all of college basketball. So I went to a game last year, 2 years ago, pre-COVID, was the last time I went, but I have not gone since. But they're a phenomenal team. I'm still close with a bunch of the players on the team.
That's awesome, because Elliot Steinmetz was one of the best guests I've ever had on the show. He's such a good guy. I went to watch one of the games this year, but then before COVID, I went to 2 or 3 where my friend was playing against them, and every single time it was a tight game, overtime, like the gym was going crazy. And you said you were a color commentator. One joke I always make to my friends is that in one of the Ryan Terrell highlight videos, I love just the first clip of it. It's the announcer going, they're tipping off the season for the Maccabees, and they literally tip it, throw it ahead, boom. And I'm just like, wow, like that's how good.
I could start any better than that.
You can't start a season better than a two-end throw down by Ryan Terrell. So it's always really fun. Every time I get to talk about Yeshiva, I love to bring them up because number one, they're a great team, incredibly coached, and they're just a fun team to be around. So it's always awesome talking about them.
For sure, and their motion offense is really, really amazing. Like the off-ball movement that Elliot has installed for the YU Max team is really incredible. They don't necessarily have the athleticism as some of the other teams that they play, but they really make up for it with basketball IQ and just really sticking to a great game plan.
Oh, so much. And that we broke that all down in episode 214. That was a incredible world-class episode, taking it back to all that. Going back, so I had to mention yeshiva. There's no way I was going to go forward and not ask you about yeshiva. But going forward, and talk to us a little bit about that first internship with respect. I mean, that sounds incredible. With the people you're able to meet, the place you're able to go. I mean, the all-star game, all this cool stuff. Like, and that was in a company, right, that you said was really, really small to start. Like, I did a similar thing, joining a few startups that were all in basketball at the start of my journey. Talk to us about the decision for you to do that, as opposed to maybe jumping on, with a huge company right away.
Yeah, and this is actually one of the things that I try to advise people who are looking to break into the sports industry. There is so many really interesting startup companies, especially in the sports technology space, that are really innovating the way we watch basketball, we view basketball, we analyze basketball, and analyze all sports, and stream and broadcast. That experience of being at a startup and being given a lot of responsibility at a young age, kind of makes you grow up a little faster. It kind of gives you that real world experience that, sometimes when you're at a big company, you're kind of stuck in the bureaucracy. You're just a cog in a machine. And I love my time of respect and the trust that those guys had in me to send me out there. Again, I was a 21, 22-year-old kid, and they showed a lot of belief in me. And I think I proved myself over and over again, and they kept giving me more and more work. I think I was still in college, so I was, willing to take some more risks. Again, a small startup company. I love the idea. I thought that shooting, if you look at some of those 3-point shooting numbers, like shooting's taking over the NBA. So I thought doing shooting analytics and helping players develop their shots would be something that would become more and more important. And if you look, the shooting industry has really taken off. There's a few different companies in the space now, and there's more that are continuing to try to innovate and come up with new ways of doing optical tracking and shot tracking. So it was, at the time, a little bit of a risky decision, but something that really, really paid off for me. And I highly suggest for anyone else looking to break in. Sometimes it's hard to get that job with the Knicks or the Nets to start off, but having some of those smaller startup companies are willing to take a chance on a kid right out of college, and that could be a great way to break into the industry.
It's hard to get those jobs with the Knicks or the Nets, but you did both of those in the same year, kind of one semester each. So what did it look for you in doing that? And then what kind of were you juggling? You were juggling that with respect. Like, how did that work, juggling all those things at the same time?
Yeah. And I was in school also. So, they both had student internship programs that were definitely accommodating to my class schedule. I would go in 3 times a week to each of them and do class the other 2 days. So I actually applied to the Brooklyn Sports Entertainment internship program the spring semester before I got it, and didn't get in. I started working for Respect and started making some connections. Again, that summer that I worked for Respect, they took me out to Summer League, and I met some people within the Brooklyn Nets organization. And after that, next thing I know, I have that internship lined up, and then I'm applying to the Knicks internship as my next step. But again, so things just kind of started rolling from that first Respect experience, and I was able to kind of keep riding that momentum all the way up until the NBA league office.
See, that's a great example of getting denied and then pushing through that adversity, right? Getting it the next time. And you had NYC unlocked by the end of that year. I mean, you work with both the 2 professional NBA teams at that point, right? Everything else comes pretty naturally. So I love that, how that all worked out for you. What were you actually doing? Because I was on the network side with MSG. What were you kind of your day-to-day there?
Sure. So with the Nets, I was really focused ticketing analytics. So we'd look at different games and different pricing models for how to sell tickets. We look at different demand and supply on secondary markets, and how how the Nets then should change their primary ticket selling options and prices. So it was a lot of data crunching. Again, very focused on the ticket side. On the MSG, when I was working for the Knicks, it was about marketing partnerships. So deals that would come through. They wanted to make sure that if they're valuing certain assets one way in one deal, they want to make sure those are consistent. So kind of looking through those deals, making sure that assets were being evaluated properly, and helping kind of comb through some of the data to make sure that we were getting the best we could.
I love that. I'm sorry that the ticketing process to go to games wasn't the same as it is now, but obviously you get to go to the G League games kind of. So that's
true. That's true.
So speaking of the G League games though, so deciding to then go with the G League, right? At the time, right? Was it the G League at the time, or still the D League, or just transitioning?
It was still the G League. This was October 2018.
That kind of supercharged it. So it was really, I mean, that's where all the momentum really started shooting upwards. But it's grown so much since then. So I mean, how did you evolve kind of with the G League from when you first started there to kind of now?
Yeah, sure. So, I'll say I love the G League being the place to start my career, just because it was a young league. My first 2 years that I guess actually all 3 years that I've been with the G League, there have been new teams that have entered the G League every single year. So, that's just kind of, it was a growing league. There was more and more opportunity for me to take on. Again, as I continue to prove myself. So when I started there, I was a project employee, which means, I was limited in terms of the amount of hours I could work, and I was on a specific contract that had an end date to it. And I was focused specifically on stats. So I was in charge of making sure that the stats for every single G League game were accurate. So there's a whole post-game review process where we review every single stat that's entered, every block, rebound, assist, steal, and make sure they're credited to the right players and that nothing is missed and that rules are being interpreted properly, on a tip rebound, or if a guy's trying to dive out of bounds to save a ball, whether he should get the turnover or not. That was really my first focus. And my role, I was a one-man team, and my role kind of has grown since then. I now do kind of run all basketball analytics and technology in the G League. So I'll kind of break that into two parts. On the basketball analytics side, so it's still managing that stats team, making sure the stats are accurate, but also taking that next step of doing statistical scouting for NBA teams and highlighting certain G League players who are ready for that NBA call-up and ready to take that next step in their career, and kind of helping some of the NBA teams do some of the scouting if they're shorthanded or don't have the time to put in as much hours to watching G League games. And one other piece of the analytics side is experimental rules. So I really thought it was cool and exciting to be in the G League because there was a lot of experimental rules. So when I started, the coaches challenge was a thing of just the G League, and the NBA was considering it. So I was getting all these data requests about the coach challenge. How effective is it? How often are calls overturned? How long are they taking to get the call right? And then, my second year, we passed the one free throw rule, which for those of you who don't know means that in the G League, you shoot one free throw during the first 46 minutes, no matter where the foul happens. And the value of that free throw changes depending on the foul type. So doing some analytics on the experimental rules and the game flow and game timing and how those affect our G League game. And on the technology side, I work out with bringing in new technology partners to the G League, whether that be in the shooting space, in the player tracking space, the streaming space, or the referee automation space. We've had a lot of really amazing partners come with to the G League, and excited to see those areas continue to grow as the G League has empowered me to put more and more emphasis and focus on those two areas.
That was so much and so beautiful because there's so much going on in the G League right now. There's so many things happening. One, you mentioned how you have two kind of different jobs. You have a third one, which is yelling at Nima Zavadzada. But when you're not doing that right, you're really focused on the other two. That's probably like 99% of your job. I'm kidding.
Yeah. He takes up way disproportionate amount of my time.
But those other two were so cool. I mean, the experimental rules, I think, is the one thing that's super fascinating because they all get tested out in the G League, and then for them to be brought to life so fast in the NBA, because the NBA sees, wow, okay, this is working there. I mean, you mentioned the two biggest ones. I mean, what was the process like? You mentioned you were getting emails all the time to really seeing it come to life in the NBA and seeing it now where it's become a staple, right? I mean, every time a foul's called, everyone's doing this. So like, how does stuff like that go from one league to the next?
Yeah, and I think, the NBA has always tried to be in the forefront of continuing to innovate and not being complacent about the game, taking it all the way back to when they introduced the three-point line and defensive 3 seconds, right? Like they've always kind of tinkered with rules, and I love that the G League is that place where they go to try out rules. So I guess I can start from the beginning of the process, from the ideation of, us on the G League level, think about different ways that we can be innovating on the game and continuing to show, the NBA new rules or new ways of playing the game that might change how they view the game of basketball, how the game of basketball can grow. So from that ideation stage, we'll then kind of talk to our competition committee, get their approval on something, and then we'll pass it up to, and then once it gets passed up by our competition committee, brings to NBA competition committee, then to NBA GM meeting. And once it gets through all those levels, then it gets passed. Then everyone wants to know, well, how's this rule actually working? So I send out reports on the one free throw, covering everything from how it's affecting fouls per game and free throws per game, how much time we're saving per free throw, how it's affecting players' free throw percentages. Is it hurting the better free throw shooters more? Is it hurting the worst free throw shooters more? As well as looking at how it affects game flow and is scoring up, is scoring down. There's obviously more variance with only one free throw. So you have these bigger game swings, and even coming up with the final 2 minutes being, the point where we're going to go back to normal NBA free throw rules. That was a data-driven decision where we thought that we never wanted to promote fouling too, but the idea of the one free throw was to save time, and we never wanted to turn it into a reason to promote fouling. And at a certain point in the game, with that variance of only one free throw, it would have been too enticing for teams to then foul and try to make a comeback. So going back to the one free throw rule, although again, has the same expected value as our one free throw rule, the variance kind of decreases with 2 free throws, and therefore teams are less inclined to foul. So that was kind of the process, and we're still looking at the data, still looking how we continue to innovate it. It's funny, when we started, there was a lot of, and we collect feedback from players, from coaches, from GMs. I think at first people were like, this is weird. We're the only league to do this. You cannot find this in any other basketball league in the world. So people who grew up watching basketball, like this was weird to them. Well, the one free throw rule was weird, but this is our 3rd year doing it now, and over time, people have really come around to it. And it's amazing to me how much support and how many positive comments I hear about this rule that at the start, I didn't think it was going to last more than a season.
Wow, I'm just seeing the smile on your face when you're talking about it, right? Knowing how much you really believe in that. I can't wait to see how long it takes to make it to the NBA. We'll see. Maybe it's next season. Maybe it takes a few more than that of people to kind of get warm to it and welcome the idea. But it's so cool. To be the only league. There's a lot of leagues in this world. I've had a lot of leagues come on this podcast, and they have their own funky rules, right? Whether it's with timeouts or with other things, or with the way the game ends, right? We saw that with the NBA All-Star game with the Elam ending. But there's so many different ways that the game is played in different places. For you guys to be the only place that's doing that, we'll see how long it takes for other leagues to start adopting it, which is really cool. And knowing how you're kind of the point person behind that and sending out all these things, that's so cool that you're kind of putting together all this data. Especially right with the stats and stuff with the G League games. I mean, you're doing so much on the G League side to kind of help promote that and help evolve it to get to that next level. And tell us how this G League season is going. Like, how have you what have been your roles kind of this G League season? And how have you kind of seen there's teams like the Mexico City Capitanes coming into play, like all these new teams coming in. Like, how has that, this season been in growing that even more?
Yeah. So this season definitely been interesting and kept us on our toes. This year we introduced the split season and had a mid-season tournament around our Showcase Cup. So that was our big innovation for this season, and something that we want to test out. It's something the NBA has been talking about for a few years now. So, this is our first year really diving into that. Obviously with the COVID outbreaks in December and January, our season got really crazy, and we've had over 100 call-ups this season, which is an all-time record. So in terms of, G League guys getting a chance and helping, I feel like I don't even have to do any promotion work. Like, so many G League guys are really already getting that chance and getting called up to the NBA. It's been amazing to watch. Not only get called up, but get real minutes, not just sit on the bench, but get real minutes and make an impact in an NBA game. To be seeing a guy work so hard with some of these G League teams and to finally get that shot, it really is amazing. So that's been something really special about this year, and I'm really proud of all the guys who have gotten called up. One thing that was different this year was Team Ignite. This was our first year of Team Ignite playing their own home games. So that's a league-owned and operated team, and a pathway for players kind of coming straight from high school to come to the G League for a year and prepare for the NBA draft. And I had a chance to go out to every single one of their home games and help with the game operations and the stats there, which was a lot of fun. And Vegas was a great host city for us. And this Team Ignite team is really exciting. So the Team Ignite and the growth of the G League as a whole, the more eyeballs we're getting, the more players that are making a difference in the NBA has only continued to help grow and strengthen the league. In terms of like assignments in two ways, I mean, you see guys, who are starting multiple games, so many games in the NBA that they have to convert them from two ways because they want them to be available for their playoff roster. So, the crossover between the NBA and the G League has never been so strong and so closely connected. And I think that's something to be, really proud of. Obviously, some of our assignment games were a little bit down because NBA teams needed their players and they couldn't get them that development reps in the G League. But, with the call-up numbers, with the way they were, we're so happy with how the season has gone.
You were talking about that bond between them and the G League never being stronger. The crazy thing is, it's only going to get even stronger. Like this situation kind of even supercharged that a little, maybe accelerated by a year or two. But this is only going to get, to where in 2025, what's going to look like 2020, 2030. Like, it's crazy to think about how far you've come since you've even started, which, 3 years ago. Like, that's in the grand scheme of things. There's a lot more basketball to be played, dribbles to be put down, and shots to be put up. So there's a lot of fun in there. You'll be over there tracking every single one of those things. So I know you'll be on top of it. But you mentioned kind of that split schedule and the showcase. Like, how did that work? Because I saw it on social media, but obviously not having been there, I'm sure that must have been an experience like no other, right? Having all these G League teams in one spot.
Yeah. So the G League Showcase has always been a marquee scouting event for us, and it's usually right before the 10-day deadline opens up. So it's really a chance for NBA teams to come. Once guys are getting a little more accustomed to the G League teams and the systems and playing with each other, Showcase is a real chance for them to show out. And a lot of young players come down assignments in two ways to play at G League Showcase. And this year, having that tournament energy and that cash prize at the end just brought a whole new level of energy and excitement around it. It's closed off to the fans, so it's really a private event. It's really it's really a pure basketball event, which is really amazing in a lot of ways. It's a chance for guys to really focus, no distractions and no getting into fights at the fan. It's basketball, and that everyone sitting in that room is evaluating you. So it's really, the tournament worked out really well. There was really you could feel the excitement in that championship game. What was awesome, similar to what we experienced in 2019-20. And I think that the idea of having a Showcase Cup, it will continue to grow. We expanded from 4 teams in 2019 to 8 teams this year. And I think we're going to continue to think about how we can continue to expand it and make it a bigger tentpole event for the G League.
I love that. I think about how that can keep on expanding, keep on growing, and the thought of how that can change from one year to the next is really, really cool. But I mean, talk to us a little about the team that you're on. I mean, obviously, right, Nima's one of it, so that's one person that's there. But I mean, who else kind of comprised that team? What does that team kind of do on a day-to-day basis? You're kind of split, like you said, in 2 different places, doing working on the innovation side, working on the stats side. But what does each kind of department look like?
Sure. So I guess I'm in the general G League basketball operations department. As you said, there's kind of two branches to the G League basketball operations. There's the game operations and the player matter side. So, the stats crew, there's 4 stats auditors that work under me and review every G League game. And they're kind of, with me, John Hartofilis, Pierce Larson, David Dorfman, and Sarah Constantinople make up the game operations side of the G League. So pretty small team. And then the player matter side consists of Steve Neff, Brad Jones, David Wagner, and Matt Topai, and they kind of handle all the players and the contracts, trades, and all that good type of stuff there. So I'm actually kind of somewhere in the middle, kind of splitting my time between the two. But we're kind of a smaller team, and we spoke about the startup life earlier, and similar to the NBA versus the G League. The G League is a little bit more of a startup culture. Like, it's just we're a smaller team. We don't have as many bodies to do things, so you have to kind of wear multiple hats and raise your hand to help out in different areas, and that's been super exciting. And again, a great place to start my career and help me grow into a bigger role, because there was opportunity there, and I wasn't stuck under a lot of people or having to fight my way to get more work. Like, there was a lot of opportunity to grow right away, and that's been really awesome for me.
Definitely sounds like a really fun work environment, and it's just like something that you just love to be around. And I mean, kind of covered so much of your career stuff, but I need to ask about you a little bit. Like, and this is some question I get asked all the time, but it's apparent anyone listening to this episode, I have to turn the playback speed to, like, I don't know, 0.75, 0.5, and both of us talking. I mean, we're both,
yeah, I'm a quick talker. You did mention that.
We both love what we do, so it's tough. But I mean, that's what I want to ask you is, like, where do you get that energy from, that passion for what you're doing? Like, how does that drive you? Because I mean, look, we spoke about all the cool stuff you're doing, so it's kind of hard not to have fun when you're doing all this cool stuff. But still, like, at some point, like, there are those mundane days, or when you don't really like those kind of dog days of the season. How do you push through that and keep this electric energy you have? How does that kind of shine through?
I still feel, it's about the G League grind, and just like the players are out there working to prove themselves. I still feel like I'm still at a young place in my career where I've had some good success. I've laid some good foundation. I got a long ways to go, and I have big dreams that I hope to accomplish. So I stay energized and stay motivated to keep working, keep improving my craft and my analytics skills, my scouting skills, my data reporting skills, and just keep working, getting better. Every day, every week, every month. And yeah, I'm not gonna lie to you, especially in COVID, and there were some down days. It's you're working from home, you're not with your teammates. The season was suspended. Like, there were some down days, and it was hard to be motivated. At this point in my career, and with the mindset that I have, I just I know that I have big dreams, and I know that to achieve those dreams, I got to keep working hard, and just kind of having that perspective in mind, I think has helped me get through those dog days or some of those slower days, especially over the past 2 years, which I know have just been tough for a lot of people.
So you mentioned some of those dreams and ambitions. I mean, for the G League, right? I feel like so many of those things have been checked. Like, the G League's proven, right? I mean, and no one has a question to say, oh, can players get called up? Do they get a real shot in the NBA? Like, does that stuff happen? And it's all check. Like, that stuff's happening. So I mean, whether it's new teams like the Mexico City Capitanes coming into the fold, expanding right globally, let's say, like, what are some of the things that the league itself, or that you're really hopeful can take place as soon as the next year, if not even past that, like they can still continue to grow in those specific ways?
Yeah, I mean, I think you mentioned something. The Mexico City Capitanes team is super exciting, and that's the first team in any professional sport in America that's going to have a team in their league based out of Mexico. So that's super exciting for us, and we're really excited for Capitanes to be playing in their home market next year. Again, due to COVID and some complications, the start hasn't been as what they might have wanted, but the international expansion, and you see it on the NBA level. I mean, right, the 2 of the past 3 MVPs have been international players. You mentioned you have a Greek background. Like, I just think that the international development and growth of the game is we're still so young in that part. So I'm excited for the G League to play a role in that and help find players. A lot of young European kids stay in Europe and they play for these clubs and they get paid at young ages. And I understand that's attractive to make that money. But I really do think that the G League is the best spot for basketball players to develop to become future NBA players. So I really do hope that we continue to expand internationally, continue to bring in new international players into the G League and into the NBA mix. And then one other thing that you said, was we have new teams kind of coming in every year. We're almost at 30 for 30. We have 28 of the 30 NBA teams. So I really also hope that we can get to 30 for 30 and have each club directly affiliated to an NBA club.
Those goals might be happening sooner rather than later. We'll see how it kind of takes place. And I'm sure we'll be talking about it. And I'll see you at Summer League and all this cool stuff to be discussing, kind of seeing where the G League is. So, I mean, you might not have been able to go to games with MSG as a student associate, but you will, right? We're going to make something work. Me, you, Nima, whoever else it is. We're going to get a game going this year before the season's over. It's going to have to happen. Let's do it. Especially after this. Once this episode goes live, I mean, I'm going to be getting so many texts, so many messages like, wow, that was so cool. That episode was great. So we're going to have to celebrate it with a game or something. I'll let you know about that. But I mean, Ben, thank you so much for coming on the show show and sharing this with us, because the energy in here was, I mean, I'm serious. I might do it on my side. So the fans have to do it at home. Turn it back down to like 0.8 speed, something like that, to make it, because with two of us together, man, it's a recipe for craziness. But
No,
I love the energy you brought, and thank you so much.
Of course, man. Have a great night, and thanks for having me. And the excitement was felt both ways. This was really awesome.